Welcome to this special series of the Check-In podcast, where we explore what it really means to lead well-being at work, at school, and at home. In this series, we're talking with leaders, educators, community builders who are creating cultures of care, purpose, and connection. Today's guest, one of my favorite people all of a sudden, is Tanya Piazza-Hughes. Tanya, welcome to the podcast, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Nelson.
Tanya, just if you want to give our audience just kind of a 2-minute bio about yourself, tell us who you are.
Well, that's a whole big nutshell, but I think I've been in HR for over 20 years, and I'd like to think that what I do is an extension of who I am. And so it's really about caring spaces in organizations, and how we can do that together. But yeah, I mean, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, sister, aunt, all of those identities. And I don't know, just your average everyday human having very human experiences frequently.
Awesome. So speaking of that, with your experience in the HR world, what does well-being at work mean to you personally?
So for me, when I don't separate. So here's one of the things too, a lot of people often talk about like work-life balance. First of all, I don't like balance. I like harmony, because I think different things are needed at different times. Balance is binary. It's kind of an either or, where I think, sometimes you need a little bit more percussion. Other times you need a little bit more of the horn section, and somehow like a symphony, it's going to flow together. So we talk about work-life balance, but it's like, so we work and then we life, like I don't, and so what I think my critical piece is that we humanize the workplace. We've got it backwards. So the way that the workplace was designed historically was people go, they do a thing, and then they go home. That model no longer serves us. And so we have to look at changing that. And when I look at well-being, for me, well-being is not just at work. It's when you're well at work, you're well in other places. And so it's when someone is connected to work that really matters. It's when someone has kind of clarity on, the mission of the organization, why they're here and their role in it. And then they can express their skills, their talent, and efforts in their own way. You just stand back. But if they're connected to the why, and then they're allowed to bring their personality and their talents and abilities and express them freely in a way, then you've got the whole human, they're understood and they're respected, and they can bring those experiences to support the organization versus derail it because it's stuffed.
And can you share one thing that your organization does, big or small, that supports the well-being of its employees?
Yeah, I mean, I've got fingers in quite a few pots, but at Cast Connects, I would say that their biggest skill is the humility to understand and really accept with genuine curiosity and enthusiasm, like what they don't know, and that they're, and the ways that they're getting in the way of their own vision. They stay humble, they stay focused on getting it right, not being right. And even when getting it right is at a higher cost, whether through effort, whether through investment, whatever. But it's about getting it right and not being right, and the humility and curiosity behind that to say we don't know what we don't know, and we want to know. So brilliant. Yeah,
I love that. We want to know.
Yeah,
that's good. And I mean, being in the HR space for 20 some odd years, I'm sure you faced some challenges along the way. So what's one challenge you face as a leader when it comes to supporting team well-being?
I think that's evolved over time, just experience and maturity and learning, right? I would say one of the challenges is I probably overshare because I have no shame. So I will tell you anything and everything that you want to know. And I mistook that oversharing for transparency. when understanding it's really just oversharing, and that can make some people feel uncomfortable because not everybody is built the same. So sometimes less is more, and just really learning when to disclose and what to disclose actually gives signals to the team that they understand around the rules around talking about well-being. So if I overshare and someone is uncomfortable in oversharing, they're a very private, reserved person, they may think that my example is the bar, that if they need a personal day, if they need time away, if they need space to breathe, if they need, flexibility, whatever, that they're going to think that they have to share everything because I do. And so it was learning how and when and what to share that is appropriate, that sets the ground rules to say, it gives, like I said, it gives a signal for people to say, I don't have to, I can just say, I'm kind of going through it and I need some space, and the trust factor and coming in to know, okay, what does support look like for you right now? How can we support you? So that was probably it, but, yeah, it's just navigating it in knowing who your people are, right? And getting to know them as human beings, and what they prefer, and, and what support looks like for them in that moment, not what it looks like for me, but for them.
Okay. And again, following that, with your experience, we always used to say BC, so, before Christ, but I think now we're changing it to before COVID. So have you seen, what's been the differences you've seen in well-being, let's say before COVID and after COVID?
The problems were always there, but we were on a hamster wheel, and the system is designed to keep us in that hamster wheel. And with COVID, the silence, we had nothing to distract us from it. And so the shadows went away. There was no shadows for these things that existed for millennia. There was nowhere for them to hide. I think it amplified it. I think it really just pushed it into the forefront and created a sense of urgency around, we need to talk about this. We need to learn through the mess of it. We need to be comfortable stepping in it. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to say the wrong things. We're going to do the wrong things. We're going to get it wrong. We're going to F it up a whole lot. But it's worth effing up. Like, it's worth messing up and doing that. So and I think life is paradox, right? Is you can be like hopeful and scared. You can be like uncertain and certain at the same time. It's just, it's everything everywhere all at once. And there's nothing binary about it, that it's okay. You can, I don't know, you can hold multiple tensions, and it's really just finding how we do that gracefully.
And what advice would you give to other leaders who want to create a Tanya Piazza-Hughes culture at work?
Oh my gosh. Well, I don't know that I would advocate that for anybody, but I think just things that I've learned along the way. And I'm always curious too, to hear lessons from others, is there's no one way, right? So I think creating a culture where people can really thrive is, I think, so one of my favorite principles comes from a wonderful author. His name is Michael Bungay Stanier, and he's written a series of books, but this one's from The Coaching Habit, and it's one of the principles of coaching is be lazy. And I loved that because it's so, antithesis of everything that you're supposed to believe in, is let them come to you and tell you what they need. I'm not a big fan of the word help. Help implies that something is broken. There's nothing broken. A lot of the times is when you think about how can I help you, it's very martyr-like. And when you think of how can I support you, it's like, I see you, I hear you, I understand you. So I'm very big on the support versus the help. No one needs my help. So it's creating that be lazy principle to say, why do I have to figure all this out myself? Like, you know better than anybody else what you need. Sometimes you don't know what you need. Then I'm there to listen. Then I'm there to say, okay, well, let's figure this out together. Maybe you don't need anything. Maybe you're just thinking in the supposed tos. Maybe I'm supposed to want a promotion, but I don't. Is there something wrong with me? Maybe I'm supposed to, want this and that, and I don't. Is like, or I think I want this, but I don't know what to call it. Or I really like this set of tasks, but I don't like this set of tasks. What does that mean? And then we sort through the mess together. But I'm not going to do that for them. If I just show up and I'm constantly this, quote unquote, smartest person in the room, then I'm going to say, hey, Nelson, I've known you for, 37 minutes. And now I know exactly what you need. And I'm going to tell you what that is. That's stupid. Like that. I don't know what's going through your mind and I don't want to figure it out. I'd rather you say, hey, Tanya, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Can we figure this out? Or this is what I think. And there's ways to do it. So there's that. And I think the other thing too is really being clear on what your mission is in an organization. Really, not just having values on your wall, like, integrity and trust, and then they're not lived values. They have to guide everything from your policy to your procedures to your, to the why of it. And once you connect people to that, you stand back and give them space and let them do their thing. So if the mission is clear, then they understand what is mission critical. And then they will question and they will be like, well, if I'm to understand the mission to be this kind of seems in contradiction to this. So how can I, this doesn't make sense. And you open that line up is like, well, I think we can get there in 2 steps instead of 7. And here are my ideas. And you stay humble and curious enough to do that, but really connect them to the mission, the why, and then be curious and listen and be receptive. So those are probably my 2 big things.
And what gives you hope for the future of leadership and workplace well-being?
It kind of connects back to the question about COVID is, there are people and organizations out there that are doing really good work. They're doing really meaningful work around what it is to have safety in the workplace, what it is to have an environment and create and sustain an environment where people can thrive, where they can be seen and valued. Organizations are starting to get it, and they're slowly finally moving beyond lip service. Because I think you would find anyone, it's like I call them bubblegum Buddhas, is they know all the language, they know all the terms, they've read all the books, they can quote Wayne Dyer or Tony Robbins at the drop of a hit, at the drop of a dime, and yet they don't live it. Right. It's just, it's lip service. But now I think people are starting to actually get it. And they're seeing that the transformation, like what can happen when you are kind and when you treat adults like adults, right? If you treat adults like children, they're going to show up like children. They're going to perform and behave like children. But if you treat them like adults who've been adults for, a good portion of their life and probably why you hired them, then they show up as adults. So, and they're seeing that there's a subtle shift now where before, again, one of the things that would drive me around the crazy is like, make a business case for DEI, make a business case for equity. I'm like, so you want to understand what your return on investment is for treating someone like a human being? Am I getting that right? So now you've started to see this shift from a human-centered perspective is like, wow, if we actually had policies that assumed people are trustworthy, then what does that look like in the workplace? And playing around with the language and really just normalizing all of it. So the other thing is our younger generation right now is the future of our leadership. And so they are so curious, and they want to know the why. They want to understand. They don't do things just because that's the way things have always been done. And for a lot of us on the back nine versus the front nine, that's frustrating, because it's like, just shut up and just do it. Like, that's our generation is, I'm not asking you why. I told you, just do it. And they are like, no, because they've seen what's happened in the generations. Like, they've seen what their parents and aunts and grandparents have, aunts and uncles and everybody have gone through. And they're like, yeah, no, I'm going to opt out of that. And I want to understand why. And I have an opinion and I want to contribute. So it's this beautiful, like, from the indigenous culture, they've got like circular learning where you've got multi-generations sitting around sharing wisdom. And everybody's perspective matters because it's so different, but it's also valuable. So that is our future leadership. And that gives me a lot of hope is if we can get, and we as in the older generation can get over ourselves and just really listen and embrace and guide still. There's still a lot to learn, but they have just as much to teach me as I do to teach them. It's just different, right? It's just different. So that gives me hope as well, is that they are so insatiably curious, and they want to get it right. They're asking good questions, and it's up to us to honor that. So, yeah.
And I think that's a great way to close it. And I'll say the words before I forget them. But from this interview, it's been curious, be curious, and embrace the different.
Yeah, we have to, right? It's just not one size fits all. And it's not just that. It's like, what fits me today might not fit me this afternoon. Forget for the rest of my life. Like, what suited me, what fit me 5 years ago doesn't fit me anymore. So we have to stay flexible, and it's not, that it's not binary, that, it's that paradox is stay curious and lean into the paradox, and just, look and be kindness wherever you can. So,
Tanya, thank you so much for participating in this, and wishing you and your team all the best.
Amazing. Thank you so much.